Ajay Ghosh to introduce Dr. Reni Mehra. We know about Dr. Ajay Ghosh. He has been with the Indo-American Press Club from the inception of this organization. He is a founding member. He is the director of Indo-American Press Club. So, Dr. Ajay Ghosh.
Thank you. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning. Indian Americans have come a long way since we started arriving on the shores of the United States in the 1960s, seeking greener pastures. We excel in almost all areas of our life and are becoming politically an active community across the United States. Several dozen of us are running for local, state, and national level offices. As the US presidential elections 2020 draws near, our community is split between the two major political parties, the Republican and the Democratic Party. Today's debate is to educate our community on where each party stands on the most important issues that affect the national and the international arena. And my role today is to introduce the moderator, Dr. Reni Mehra, who has a doctorate in public health and is very well known to the South Asian community, community in the US. She is one of the very prominent broadcast journalists in the New York tri-state area, a tenacious broadcaster with a passion for accurate and compelling storytelling. She is the host of the long-running television program. Her in-depth, candid reports have captured the diverse ethnic fiber of the United States. Her signature show, There Is Reni Report, has delivered top-notch quality content to its audience in an informational and entertaining style for several years. Dr. Reni Mehra is the president of Rainbow Media and Advertising Broadcasting Public Relations Company in the US. She is the vice president of the United Nations Staff Recreational Council, Science of Spirituality Club that promotes meditation and selfless service at the United Nations under the spiritual guidance of Sant Rajinder Singh Maharaj. Dr. Mehra served as the president of IAPC in 2018. She has devoted her energy, resources, skills, and talents for the betterment of the society in various capacities, and was the first South Asian woman to run for New York City Council twice to make a tangible difference in the lives of New Yorkers and break the last frontier for our community. We are proud to have Dr. Mehra moderate this important presidential debate. Now I call upon Dr. Mehra to tell us the rules for the debate and begin this much anticipated presidential debate. And I wish all the panelists the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajay Ghosh. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Indo-American Press Club putting out this defining debate. It is a very defining year, 2020, not just for America, but for the entire world with the global pandemic. But this definitive year in November will give us a choice to elect the 46th President of the United States. Is it going to be the Republican incumbent, President Donald Trump, or is it going to be the Democratic challenger, Joe Biden? So which ticket is going to be victorious, whether it's a Trump-Pence ticket or Biden-Kamala Harris ticket? We will know in just a few weeks. We have 3 panelists from the Republican side today for the debate and 3 panelists from the Democratic side. And I'm going to be introducing them, but there will be a short video right after that. Puneet Ahluwalia is the candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Virginia. Dr. Sampath Shibangi, he's a Republican delegate to the National Republican Convention. Dr. Anand Tamhankar, he's a multidisciplinary expert and a physician. And from the Democrat side, our panelists are Sujata Gadkar Wilcox. She's a candidate for Connecticut State Assembly. Dr. Heathel Gore, she's a OBGYN from New Jersey. And Mr. Anil Bansal, he's the president of the Federation of Indian Associations for New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I welcome all our prestigious panel today. And as I said, it is a very defining year for from the political landscape of America. We have gone through a lot this year. I'm going to be talking about very critical issues with our panelists, whether it is on COVID-19, whether it's a healthcare crisis, whether it's racial issues, whether it's climate change, or Indo-American foreign policy, and a lot more. Each candidate will get 2 minutes to talk on each topic. And after the topic is complete with that question, one candidate from the team will make a rebuttal. So it will be 2 minutes for each candidate to talk about the topic, and 1 minute from one member of the team to make the rebuttal. So before we start the debate, let me give a background introduction on our prestigious panel. So let's take a look at the video and see what they're all about with their background. Can we have the video, please? At the
Yeah. 1 second. 1 second only. Sorry.
Let us introduce our debate panelists. We have 3 participants from Republican Party and 3 participants from Democratic Party. The Republican panelists are 1. Puneet Ahluwalia, candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Virginia. 2. Dr. Sampath Shivangi, Republican delegate to the National Republican Convention. 3. Dr. Anand Tamhankar, a multidisciplinary expert and a physician.
The Democrat panelists are 1. Sujata Gadkar, Wilcox, candidate for Connecticut State Assembly. 2. Dr. Hetal Gore, OBGYN, New Jersey. 3. Anil Bansal, President, Federation of Indian Associations, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Moderator of today's debate is Ms. Renee Mehra, news anchor, ITV Gold.
Puneet Ahluwalia, candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Virginia. Indian American, Puneet Ahluwalia is a Republican candidate in a race to become Virginia's next Lieutenant Governor in 2021. Ahluwalia, a McLean businessman who emigrated from India, is running as a jobs creator who could push to extend Northern Virginia's economic success to the state's struggling rural and urban areas. A Sikh, whose wife is Muslim, Ahluwalia wants to reimpose pragmatic governance in the Democratic-controlled state, arguing that Virginia has veered too far to the left on policies related to law enforcement and the economy. His message to the electorate: we want all Americans, including our own children and yours, to enjoy the freedom and opportunity that have so blessed Nadia and me. We have operated and managed small businesses for many years. We have succeeded, we've failed, and we've succeeded again.
Dr. Sampath Shivangi, Republican delegate to the National Republican Convention. Dr. Sampath Shivangi, a physician, an influential Indian American community leader, and a veteran leader of the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, API, currently serving on the United States. Dr. Sampath Shivangi, Republican delegate to the National Republican Convention. Dr. Sampath Shivangi, a physician, an influential Indian American community leader, and a veteran leader of the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, API, currently serving on the United States Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration's Center for Mental Health Services National Advisory Council. Dr. Sampath Shivangi has been a conservative lifelong member of the Republican Party, hailing from a strong Republican state of Mississippi. Dr. Shivangi is the founding member of the Republican Indian Council and the Republican Indian National Council, which aims to work to help and assist in promoting President-elect Trump's agenda and support his advocacy in the coming election.
Our next Republican panelist, Dr. Anand Tamhankar, is a multidisciplinary expert who is trained as a physician. and has dual master's degrees in biomedical engineering and business management. He brings unique cross-functional expertise, along with over 20 years of advisory experience working for the world's leading consulting companies, healthcare systems, technology startups, and entrepreneurial ventures. Over the years, he has worked with several large-scale healthcare systems and their senior management on a wide range of consulting projects worldwide. Anand is a first-generation immigrant from India and is a strong proponent of enabling individuals, providing incentives for innovation, risk-taking, and rewarding success. This, he believes, is the best way to accomplish sustained growth, development, and long-term prosperity for any country.
Sujata Gadkar Wilcox, candidate for Connecticut State Assembly. Sujata Gadkar Wilcox, an associate professor at Quinnipiac where she teaches constitutional law and human rights, says she is running for election out of concern for the contentious and divided political environment. The time is now to take responsibility for getting our state back on the right path. We have an obligation to ensure that our children enjoy quality public education, preparing them to be innovators and problem solvers. She was honored to receive a Fulbright Nehru Award to support her research on the framework of the Indian Constitution. She was awarded the prestigious William Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board, which enabled her to travel to India during the 2015 to 2016 academic year to continue her research on the framework of the Indian Constitution. She also is a former director of Juvenile Law at Family Services in Westchester.
The next panelist in Democratic side is Dr. Hetal Gore, Obgyn, New Jersey. Dr. Hetal Gore is a board-certified Obgyn, practicing in Englewood, New Jersey. She has her own medical talk show on ITV since 2010. She also has a political radio show. She has won multiple awards as a top doctor, Top 10 Gyne Surgeon Award, Compassionate Doctor Award, Patient's Choice Award, International Women Award, for Balancing Career and Family, International Academy Award 2017, Rising Star Award, Nari Adjami Award 2018. She is the medical director and owner of Better You Medical Spa, CEO of Health Media LLC, and medical director of Women's Own Obgyn. Dr. Gore sits on New Jersey's statewide advisory commission on minority and multicultural health. Dr. Gore is the president/founder of U.S. chapter of Federation of OB-GYN Society of India.
Last but not the least, we have the Democratic panelist, Anil Bansal, president of Federation of Indian Associations New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Anil Bansal, a founder and executive chairman of Indus American Bank, is an active and distinguished community leader, an active philanthropist, through his Bansal Charitable Foundation, which provides financial support to a multitude of non-profits in the USA, and a very successful entrepreneur with real estate holdings across the USA. Bansal also holds a significant portfolio of investments in the IT industry. Bansal has been an integral part of the diaspora, and for serving in various roles, and after a 2-year hiatus to spend time with his grandchildren, has now returned to serve the community, again by holding the top spot in the soon-to-be 50-years-old FIA. Bansal, a graduate from IT Kanpur in India. With the short introduction of these 6 panelists, let us start our debate on U.S. presidential election. Ms. Renee Mehra, news anchor of ITV Gold, will moderate today's debate. Let us begin the presidential debate.
Just want to make a quick correction here. I am the anchor producer for TV Asia. I used to work for ITV Gold before, but for the last couple of years, I'm the anchor producer for TV Asia. Let's start with our presidential debate 2020. As I said, a very defining year in the political landscape of the United States. And our first question is going to be on COVID-19, which has taken over 219,000 lives in the United States till now. So my question to our candidates, and we're going to start with the Republican candidates first. If President Trump was more transparent and follow the scientific data recommendations of scientists, would we be there today at this condition of our pandemic in the United States? Let's start with Puneet Ahluwalia.
Puneet, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, great.
His audio is- Yeah, go ahead, sir. Did you hear the question? Go ahead, answer the question.
We don't see him.
No, he's on, but we cannot hear him.
Unmute.
Oh, yeah. Are you able to unmute?
Christopher, can you unmute him? Puneet Ahluwalia.
He's unmuted, but it seems like he has some problem on his computer itself.
So let's go to Dr. Sampath Shivangi, and by that time, are you okay?
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for the great event, and we look forward that we can solve the problems of US elections in the next 2 weeks. With that, I would, of course, in retrospectively, you can say so many things. We could have done that, could have done this, but President Trump was forthright in stopping Chinese traveling to US. He, much before even March of 2020, to stop the immigration of people carrying virus from China to rest of the world. Of course, whole world did not do it. Only US did it. But so there was infiltration of viruses coming from all other countries as well. Of course, Europe ban was done later in March, April of 2020. That didn't help much. But I think, but he was initially very much concerned about Chinese virus, which we call now. And China is the culprit in this case, because they should have controlled the virus going out of China. And they let it go out of the China all over the world. So the whole world is suffering because of one nation, China. China is the culprit. I think United Nations and the rest of the world must notice it. And of course, WHO was also part of helping China. They did not take stringent actions against China. That led to multiple entry of viruses all over the world. Of course, as I said, we can always say that we could have done this, could have done that, but at the moment, you don't want to shut the economy of the country.
You have 15 seconds. You have 15 more seconds.
Okay, thank you. You don't want to shut the economy of the country. The United States is the most powerful, economically advanced nation. If you have restrictions of trade or the influx of people coming from all over the world, we are harming US. So that was the reason I feel that whatever was done to the best of the interest of the USA.
Time is up.
We should support it. Thank you.
Dr. Anand Tamhankar.
Thank you, Renee, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about this important issue. I firmly believe that the Trump administration managed the pandemic extremely well within the given constraints of democracy and the US Constitution. The efforts were on war footing and flexible to adapt to the new information available about the virus and its effective management. No one, including the healthcare experts, had any blueprint of how to effectively manage the new virus. The WHO too was totally confused and was giving conflicting recommendations. What should a nation head do in such circumstances? He cannot say the sky is falling, run for cover. No wonder countries responded from a very different ways, from a dictatorial complete lockdown in China to business as usual to try and herd immunity in Sweden. That itself shows very clearly that nobody had any idea about how to manage this particular virus. what I want to emphasize is that we need to take into consideration the actions taken, not the rhetoric, which is basically political, which is basically targeted to specific audience to make sure that there is no wholesale panic in the organization. See, the medical experts, I am one of the medical experts, they can give a medical recommendation. They cannot give a recommendation as to how to manage the lives of the people. See, the economy is also important. So they have to strike a balance. See, the results of the early action of the Trump administration are self-evident. Initially, they were projecting over 2 million to be impacted or dead. Currently, we have a 97% recovery rate from the virus, which is best amongst comparable nations. What I would say is that can you even imagine Biden at the helm when coronavirus struck? He called Trump action, banned China travel early in the pandemic, gets xenophobic. These actions saved millions of lives.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Tamankar. Is Puneet Ahluwalia
back? Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Oh, great, wonderful. Sorry about that earlier. First is thank you all and my friend Kamlesh Mehta and Mr. Ghosh to invite me to this great panel and great panelists here. I think we Indian Americans have become such a great role model for all minorities now. We used to look at the Jewish community for doing all what they have done to inspire us. And I think now we are the standard bearers. So thank you all, and I look forward to a healthy debate. I think your question was there transparency? I think President Trump did a great job. I think he was on the television every day telling people what was going on, but instead the media kind of spun it in a different fashion. In fact, more about making a joke and a mockery out of a president, which is very unfortunate in democracy. And secondly, Governor Cuomo of New York kind of thanked the president for giving all the resources needed to fight COVID. And as my esteemed friend doctor said, that there's no blueprint on fighting a pandemic, but yet I think we went on a war footing. But the problem is the Democrat made this into a political issue because they knew with a booming economy for what all the President Trump had done, especially in keeping the promises on campaign trail and fulfilling them, unlike most political leaders do, I think he made a phenomenal job. And that's what's the concern, which is that the Democratic Party found a way to really stall the economy and hurt American people. That's the biggest concern here. And secondly, we saw the rioting, which impacted us all, and the looting. In fact, there were no rules and prescriptive regulations during those crises. And especially in states controlled by Democratic governors, there was no action taken against Antifa and these rioters. So I believe that there were a reason, there's political malice here on the Democratic Party in stalling the economy. And we see Nancy Pelosi doing the same right now for not passing the bill, the stimulus package, and is making this into a political sham. So I believe that the President Trump, given the information he had, and at every point he's basically called out China for their bad action, which has really hurt our country and the world around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going now to the Democrats panelists. Do you feel that Joe Biden has not suggested anything new to address the pandemic? How will the Biden administration be different from that of Trump's? Thoughts on your vaccines, as well as when you think this pandemic will start wearing off in the country? And I'm going to start off with Sujata Gadkar-Wilcox.
Everyone, good afternoon. Let me just start by saying thank you for having this discussion. The thing we need most in this country right now is to have a public dialogue and actual, genuine discussion on issues and raise points of contention. So let me start by saying I'm proud to be the child of Indian immigrant parents and happen to be born on the 4th of July and a scholar of the U.S. Constitution and running for public office. So it's really good to represent the community in this way. And again, for me, this kind of public dialogue. So let me put the two questions together. When it comes to transparency, I do think that there was a lack of a coherent message when it came to the United States, certainly under the Trump administration. But I do agree with what two of the panelists have said already, that we need to be looking beyond rhetoric and thinking about action. And things that I think the Biden administration have stated they will do that's different than the Trump administration is putting more money into a stimulus package, for example, that trickles all the way down to municipalities. I can tell you at the state level for sure, our schools are struggling with reopening because they haven't gotten enough money to support things like ventilation systems that they need to ensure that you know, children will actually have proper access or be safe, right, while they're in school. So that would be really, you know, investing in contact tracing, right, making sure that the tools are readily available for the investors there. Rethinking about supply chain for PPE. You know, whether that's thinking about, you know, domestic supply chains and investing in those supply chains, you know, and organizing a workforce you know, potentially a U.S. public health force that is focusing on contract tracing that might then also increase
Ma'am, 15 seconds left.
actual structural changes and actions that, you know, the Biden administration said we have to invest in, and I think we must invest in because it's really that infrastructure that's going to be key to getting us through the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Sujata Wilcox, and moving on to Dr. Heathel Gore.
Thank you so much, Renee, and thank you all the panelists to come on a Sunday morning to discuss such an important topic, right? We are like less than 2 weeks away from the election, and my opponents have said a few things that I'd like to address. But to answer your question, Renee, I think Biden has shown a great leadership. They've already come up with a plan, right? They are going to increase the number of test centers. We really need to do more testing to know where are the asymptomatic carriers rather than wait till somebody shows up. So we need to do more testing, and Biden-Harris plan is to do that. Number two, contact tracing. It's very important. Once we find somebody who is positive, we have to trace the contacts. That's where we are going to limit rather than throw the party and be the super spreader events that our president has shown. Number three, they want to increase the vaccine availability, medication availability, and distribute it free to all those who are in need. The president has no such plan to do that. Number of cases which are rising, and he blames it to, you know, but what happened when the virus came here? All my opponents are saying, oh, it's China to be blamed. I agree. But what do we do now? There is no scientific, there is no truth telling. He knew about the virus. He sat on the information. He didn't do anything about it. And that's the problem. You are in a leader of one of the largest democratic nation, and you hide information. You're not telling the truth. He is full of lies, and there is no scientific basis. He comes up and says, okay, drink bleach. He's telling people not to wear masks. He's telling people, okay, come on, come to my rallies. What kind of president he is to show that kind of leadership? And I think that's really worrisome because he, as a leader, has not shown any responsibility.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heathel Gore, and Mr. Anil Bansal. You're on next.
First of all, thanks to Indo-American Press Club and Renee Mehra, Ajay Ghosh, Chief Editor of Asian Era. And thanks to my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for this discussion. And special naman to all the viewers who want to hear what we have to say. You know, it's been said again and again, the fact of the matter is, tell the truth. It has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that President Trump lies at every stage possible. He is selfish. He only has done everything for himself. Everything is about him. He has no belief. He has discredited all the experts. We all talk about institution. You take the medical institution like CDC, whatever recommendations are done, it's been destroyed completely. You know, everybody, medical experts talk about that, okay, promote wearing the mask. The fire has been lit by China. Yes, it's there, but we have to work on protecting the house we live in. And then everything has experts in its own areas. And all the medical experts, almost all of them say, at least wear the mask. And what does President Trump do? Don't wear mask. I'm not wearing a mask. There are good people on both sides.
I don't know. It's an absolute lack of leadership, lack of belief in the system. It almost feels like that he is trying to divide and destroy the country in the long run. No matter what you say, he's made a mockery of everybody. You know, one of the person just mentioned that the media mocked him. That's not true. There are hundreds of cases of Mr. Trump mocking everybody else. Whosoever he wants to, whosoever doesn't agree with him, he mocks them. He makes fun of them. So to be very, very fair, Trump has been a disaster. He has divided the country in every which way possible, and time has come to take an action against it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bansal. And now we will give 1 minute from one member of the team to make a rebuttal. So from the Republican side, who would like to make the rebuttal?
I can do it if it's okay with other two of my colleagues. The most important part, President Trump has rejuvenated the vaccine theory, which was never done in hundreds of years of scientific innovations. The vaccine will be there before the election. I'm 90% of that sure. Why are you laughing, Mr. Bansal? Is it funny?
Yes, it is very funny. Actually,
yeah, he's going to have a
vaccination. You make that statement.
Yeah, and he has revolutionized the industry to manufacture ventilators. Not only he provided ventilators to entire country, also he exported to the world, especially to India. He had a special plane go to India with the ventilators, and I think that's a big achievement. Of course, there have been some lapses. You know, it's always good to say retrospectively, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. What President Biden, okay, with all the things, he cannot remember whether he's running for a US Senate or he's running for a US presidency. If that is the case of presidency, acumen or knowledge, you know, I'm sorry to say, he's not the right candidate.
Okay, thank you very much. And moving on to the Democratic side for the rebuttal, who would like to volunteer?
Hetal.
Okay, Mr.
Yeah, definitely I'll like to go ahead. Dr. Shivangi, with due respect, my friend, I don't think the question here is getting this vaccine out in 2 weeks is ever going to happen, right? Because you and I know there are different phases of any vaccine that has to come out. We have seen some vaccines from some company had some side effect and it's still getting done. I don't think President Trump understands how vaccines are created. He wanted the vaccine to come out in a few weeks. Vaccine takes its own time. The strain of the virus has to be changed. It has to be mutated. And he will never understand because he doesn't believe in science. Time and time again, he's proven to come out and make statements which are completely contradictory to the scientific societies. And he doesn't even listen to what his medical experts are saying. He comes out and he tries to make statements which are false.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gore. And we're going to move on to our second question, which is healthcare. It's another critical issue that is affecting all of us and affecting all our lives. So my question to the Democratic panel is going to be, since the implementation of Obamacare, the healthcare cost has skyrocketed. The pandemic showed the vulnerabilities of the healthcare system as a whole. How would the Biden administration address the rising costs of healthcare and healthcare that is affordable for all? I want to start with Mr. Anil Bansal.
So first of all, your point is extremely right. Obamacare was done. Think about this for a second. US is the only, mind my words, only industrialized nation in the world where all people are not taken care of medically by the government. Everywhere in the world, that is one thing which is given. United States is the only country where only privileged and the rich have the access to medical system. And so many people had gone bankrupt and continue to go bankrupt because of the very high cost of medicine in this country. So Obamacare had taken care of at least 20 to 25 million poor people who could not afford the medical cost in this country. It was a partial decision, partial approval. I would love to see everybody being covered, but at least it was a start. Something about Mr. Trump, he hates Obama, that anything which he has done whatsoever is, he talks about that, oh, it's no good. He talks about, I will bring down the cost. Guys, 4 years have passed under your administration. What have you done to lower the cost? Nothing. It's just talk. And the fact that you will take away various parts of Obamacare, which will cause more financial burden to the poorest, is just unconscionable. You know, how do you sleep in the night making even statements like that? He just talks. He has no plan whatsoever. He just says, I will lower it. I will lower it. But he can't. He hasn't done it. He has had 4 years.
Okay. Move on to Dr. Heathel Gore.
So thank you, Renee, for this very important question. Being a physician and being a physician for women's health, I feel Mr. Trump has done so much harm to the healthcare, right? He's not done anything to help people. All he does is he criticizes, he comes up with this mockery of making people. He wanted to actually take down the part of Obamacare which would have stripped so many hundreds of millions of Americans with pre-existing condition. He doesn't care. All he cares is he wants to show, oh, I saved the money. At what cost? Obamacare introduced that our kids will get under the parents' insurance up to age 26. He wants to bring it down. In today's day and economy, you know, it's hard for the kids to finish school on time and then get a real job. They have to be under the parents' insurance. He is making, as my friend Anil said, he is trying to make mockery of things. He says, I'm going to change it. You had 4 years to do. You haven't done anything substantial. Now he's attacking women's health. He wants to take our rights on control of our body. He's trying to get a Supreme Court judge to tilt the whole balance and take away Roe versus Wade. How is that possible? How come this developed country in 2020, we are still talking about abortion rights? This president has nothing better to do than to make his bank account, his family to prosper. He doesn't care about American health. And as Mr. Bansal said, we are one of the most advanced nation without a proper healthcare for universally for all Americans. And that's really a shame.
Thank you. And moving on to our third speaker from the Democratic side, Sujatha Gatkar-Wilcox.
I just want to reiterate one point that I think is important for us as well. We really do have to look beyond the rhetoric and look to action and structures that are in place here. And running in town, and maybe for me in particular, running in a town where most people are unaffiliated, it really gives me a good sense of what is on people's minds. I can tell you healthcare is something that is certainly tremendously important to most people, you know, and the Affordable Care Act is actually quite, right, among unaffiliated, quite popular. And so what has it done structurally? It's reduced the uninsured, that's dropped by 40%. For Biden, certainly the plan is to introduce something like a national public option. How do we offset the cost? Because there is a question, you started with the question of cost, so increasing something like tax credits to offset insurance costs, perhaps allowing things like foreign purchase of prescription drugs. So actual structural plans that are in place to address the cost of healthcare, but to maintain what is quite popular with the Affordable Care Act, which is the accessibility, particularly for vulnerable groups, for people with pre-existing conditions. Right? Those things do not exist right now, and going after the Affordable Care Act, first of all, is not only unpopular, but it leaves those communities increasingly vulnerable. I think there has to be that structurally has not been addressed under the Trump administration. It's curtailed in a way people have been identifying as Trump.
Thank you very much. And we're going to be taking a couple of questions, but let me move on first to the Republican panel over here. With the Obamacare under Supreme Court review a week after the general elections, will the Trump administration want to have over 20 million Americans lose health care coverage? What is the alternate healthcare Trump is offering to those millions who stand to lose coverage if the Supreme Court decides against Obamacare? And I'm going to start with Dr. Anand Tamanko.
Yeah, thank you, Rennie. I think that it's a big hoopla and hoopla that is created by the media that Trump is so bad that he badly wanting so many people to get out of health insurance. He's not going to first have all the people lose their insurance. See, what is happening is that would you like to join a party on a Titanic knowing fully well that it's going to where it is heading? That is what hastily cobbled up Obamacare is. It is a non-sustainable plan. It's very evident by the results. You see, those people, there is a reduction of 40% enrollment in those people who do not get subsidy. So what it is doing is that pushing people into the lower bracket where they were earnings bracket where they can qualify for subsidy. So it's creating a perverse incentive in the society to become poor and qualify for those subsidies. So I think nobody in their right mind would want people to not have insurance and affordable care. But our plan is to have an approach that is sustainable, market-driven, which has a sustainability and not just funded by increasing taxes on all the people who are working and trying to push them down. We see already the market working in Amazon, Walmart, all various delivery models. And Medicare we see Trump reduce drug prices already. ACA, we have seen that he is also covering all the pre-existing conditions. He is the first president to lose the net worth by taking on the job. He is a billionaire and doesn't need the money. So somebody pointed that he is doing it for the money and for his family, but that is not true. Hello?
Yes.
I think, okay.
I think US healthcare system has become so expensive and bureaucratic over the years and unsustainable. So we need to have a different approach, not just keep pushing more and more money into the
time is up.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sampath Shivangi.
Thank you again. Yeah, of course, President Trump has initiated lowering the drug cost. That is his main goal of healthcare. Secondly, President Obama's healthcare has so many flaws, including the initial cost. The down payment is like between $5,000 to $10,000 to some of the poor families in the United States who cannot afford, and so they cannot pay the down payment for their insurance. So definitely they are disadvantaged in some ways. I would not say that Obamacare is a bad care, but the initial costs are so high, and it is impossible for a common man to sustain the costs of the healthcare. And the second thing I would say is US has the best healthcare in the world. You go to next door to Canada. If you want to have a hip surgery, knee surgery, you may have to wait 6 months, a year, or 2 years. So also, you show me one country, which country has the best healthcare? Why the whole world wants to come for any treatment to US? Because we have the best system, we have the best physicians, we have the best hospitals. What can you ask more for in a nation? I was in England I served in those systems. Oh, people have waited for 6 months to 1 year for hernia operation. Do you want that in the US? We think we have the best system. We need to continue. Of course, we can make some improvements. We can move on with the next project. Thank you.
Dr. Shivangi, I just want to ask you one question. You said that we have the best healthcare. I'd just like to share with you that the United States spends millions of dollars of preventive care, and yet our country ranks lowest, one of the lowest in positive outcomes in industrialized countries. So you're talking about a healthcare crisis over here. We're spending a whole lot on preventative healthcare, but it's not happening. We are definitely a pill-popping culture country. We spend a lot, but yet we do not receive positive outcomes. What is your take on that?
As far as I know, I think we have the best healthcare system in the world. Of course, there is nothing like ultimate. We have to have, some give and take, and if we can make adjustment, a panel has to come up with the recommendations how we want to proceed. It's not a one-man show. I don't think any president can fix the issues. All the previous presidents, including President Clinton, George W. Bush, Obama have tried, but there is no one way to go to the best system. We have to try many systems, and one day we'll be successful. Do you want to be like socialistic country? You want to be like India? There are millions and crores of people without the basic health care. Now, do you want that system to come into US? I think we have the best system. We need to enforce what we are going to do. And, as I said, there are many ways to improve. And I'm not saying that this is the only thing we can do. We can do a lot of things. The experts should have a panel and discussion and come to some conclusion.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Rene, can I just say one thing? What you just said, I completely agree with it. There has been studies done globally, and we are the second worst nation after Russia in the health of individuals. So our individual people in the health are one of the worst, second to Russia. This is the healthcare we have. So you're 100% right. This is not, yes, there are best cares. I agree with Dr. Shivangi in certain cities, certain part of the cities where we have excellent healthcare because we have excellent physician and hospital. That has nothing to do with the president or the president's plan. So thank you, Rene, for bringing that up.
Let me interject for a second. I would say that if the healthcare system in US is that bad, why do the world leaders come here for the treatment? So there is a disparity in the treatment, not the best treatment. We do have the best treatment, but it is not distributed evenly.
Okay, so Mr. Baliwalia, you want to give?
Well, I guess we've kind of strayed away from the subject. I think the fundamental was that Obamacare was a failure. It has hurt businesses, and when President Trump tried to fix it, of course, we were not able to take it through the Senate and get it passed. But at the same time, his focus has been to move away from the government-controlled exchanges in the states to an open competition with insurance companies. He's worked very hard to lower the drug cost, which is very important for the elderly folks and the folks who really need it. At the same time, the sole narrative of that he wants to take away pre-existing conditions and he wants to raise the premium, which is on the other side of on the Democratic side. So I believe that President Trump, if you see from every aspect, has been trying to make the life of hardworking American people simpler and easier. But what has happened is there's a chokehold. We also know, because we have large number of Indian Americans who are doctors, ask them how much their businesses have suffered under Obamacare. And I do want to concur, Dr. Shivangi and my friend Anand, that we still have the best healthcare. And somebody said, well, we are just below Russia, then why are most people, as he already answered, is coming to the United States? At the same time, I do want to tell my friends here.
Time is up.
Okay, sorry. But
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a rebuttal. I think, Dr. Gore, you already made the rebuttal at the time. I don't know if somebody else from your team wants to make another rebuttal, but Dr. Gore already made the rebuttal. So let's go on to the Republican side and see if there's anybody who would like to make a rebuttal.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can talk. I think what I hear from my opponents is mostly a very media created hype around trying to leverage the problems with the US healthcare system that have been before even Trump took the office. So I think over the years, the healthcare system has become very inefficient, and we spend so much money on administrative costs, four times that of any other industrialized nation. How did that happen? Because so many lobbying groups are basically lobbying up in the Senate and legislature to create their own cash flows. So I think we need to have a radical approach to try and make the thing very efficient, not make it more bureaucratic as we see in Obamacare. Already people are having trouble registering and then keeping the requirements of the income because they need to report their income periodically to make sure that their coverage is there, and also wrong incentive to remain in the poverty bracket.
Well, thank you very much. We're moving on to the third question, which is the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. And I'm going to first go to our Republican panel. The question is, the United States was looked upon as a world leader, but with the United States withdrawal from international commitments and organization, our role as a world leader has diminished. Who benefits from the isolationist approach to the world by the Trump administration? And I'm going to start off with Dr. Sampath Shivangi.
Yes, thank you. The whole reason to withdraw from WHO was the way the present administrator, the chairman who comes from Ethiopia, I think, he was colliding with China, and Chinese were running the WHO, and they were not running to the best of the ability of a organization which has done so enormous benefits to the entire world. But he was acting like another dictator, WHO chairman. That was the only reason he did not warn rest of the world about the coronavirus. He did not give enough coverage, enough advice, enough supplements to the entire world. He did not forewarn about coronavirus or Chinese virus, as we call it. And he was hand in glove with China. How do you have such a person to head an organization called WHO, who is partisan, who is pro-communist, who is pro-China? I think I have issue somebody like that to head an organization. And, so he brought such a misery to the entire world. Millions of people died across the world. I think, do you want such a person to head the organization? I would definitely not. I mean, if I'm a sane person, I would not propose such a man to be the head of a WHO. I think President Trump did a right thing. No, not that we are saving millions of dollars. That money he's distributing to the entire world to take care of the health of the people across the world, and to make sure that people who have sustained injuries because of coronavirus, they may be covered with that fund.
15 seconds.
So I think it's a noble thing what he did. Of course, we can have a better chairman of WHO who can take care of the world, not one country like China, communist China.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shivangi. Moving on to Mr. Puneet Ahluwalia.
I'm glad he's moved out of WHO, and I'm glad we move out of United Nations and have asked NATO partners to pay up their due share, which they have to do. I think President Trump is very focused on where our dollars are being used. If people who will not vote and support United Nations goals, our democracy, our values, and when we only have 9 countries raising hands when Nikki Haley asked for a vote, then that means there's a disagreement, there's a mindset change, an ideological difference between the rest of the world and the United States. And I disagree when you said that our world presence is at stake. No, it is not. Look at the Abraham Accord. President Trump did a phenomenal job bringing the Jewish community, Israelites, and the Middle East communities, the countries, the Gulf countries, to come and have a peace accord. The success of Quad, where India is included, Japan is part of it, Australia is part of it. And again, fighting on and taking on the Chinese. Look at our success in defeating ISIS. Look at, we are coming out of Afghanistan. So he's getting us out of all these unnecessary entanglement and focus on American and American people and the growth of our country and reinvesting and investing in infrastructure and manufacturing. That's what he's done. He's renegotiated trade agreements with our neighbors. So, you know, again, this is a different strategy. This is more targeted, more business. And I think we've had and achieved great success. And the success is there. The success of Quad, the success of the Abraham Accord. I think the CNN and the Kool-Aid, which is being shared by them to everyone, is being drunk. Look at the success he's had. We defeated ISIS. You know, there are things which are happening. Look at the success in the religious freedom. We've taken on the Chinese on the Uyghur issues. We have taken on we've had a great success with North Korea. So this is
15 seconds.
quite positive. I think I've made my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahluwalia. And then Dr. Anand Tamakar, your response.
Yeah, thank you. What I think is happening is that it's a totally different response, different way to approach WHO. Trump administration demands accountability and effectiveness from all organizations and departments that its taxpayers are funding. You know, WHO receives almost 22% of its budget from US, so we have to hold them accountable. They totally failed in managing the pandemic earlier on. In January, they said that there is no human-to-human transmission. They lost their credibility when they were flip-flopping on how to basically manage the epidemic. Taiwan had initially told the world that there is a problem in China, but under the Chinese influence, WHO hid that information and said, oh, no, nothing is happening. The virus is limited to China, and that is where the whole, it allowed it to go to every other country. So we need to make sure that we make these organizations that are just sucking up our taxpayer dollars more efficient. And you call out Trump for unscientific responses, but these are the scientists from WHO who made all the wrong statements, which were responsible for killing millions of people. So we need to have WHO overhauled, and that is exactly what Donald Trump said to these people, that reform your WHO, take out the people who are inefficient, and we will rejoin the organization.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And moving on to our Democratic panel, the question is, United States has been adhering to a policy of appeasing nations, including China, under Obama administration. How does the United States regain its role as the world leader? How would the Biden administration work to regain the trust from the peoples of the world? I want to start off with Ms. Sujata Gatpa-Wilcox.
It's important to think about, what we benefit by with global collaboration. And something, particularly when it comes to the pandemic, and similar to climate change, we know now that every local response has global implications. This is not something that can be isolated to a local, to a local system or local state or local county. And that means that it's going to be important to have some kind of global collaboration, global response. Now, those aren't mandates. Of course, sovereignty is still relevant at the international level, but that kind of collaboration has been sort of the basis, and certainly of international systems, international law. And I think the U.S. would face dire consequences from something like a withdrawal from the WHO, because you already have, when it comes to the actual framework, you have a number of collaborative organizations that are part of the WHO that exist in the United States itself. So you already have collaborative partnerships that will help create the global framework. If you isolate the United States from that, you isolate the U.S. from the world in a way, because there is still a collaborative global response that's looking for the best way to address this, looking about contract tracing, looking for vaccines. And once the U.S. gets isolated from that, they have no say in that response. And it's not like what happens globally. The fact that we see that this virus has gone from region to region, right? Isolating ourselves from collaborative global engagement is not going to help the U.S. It's not going to benefit the U.S. And all it means is we'll have no say. And it's better, I think, to have a voice in that kind of collaboration that exists now to be able to coordinate a global response, because we cannot isolate the
Thank you very much. I'm moving on to Dr. Hetal Gore for her response.
So as my colleague rightly said that, right, we cannot exit as in isolation. The world has become so flat, right? Whatever we do impacts globally, and whatever happens globally impacts us, be it environment, be it economy, be it health, industries, everything. We are co-dependent. Trump has made us look like fools and a laughing stock amongst international leaders. We've seen it time and time again. Who used to be our strongest allies, European nations, none of them want to stand with us. We've made them such an enemy. And now the WHO, United Nations, these are the collaborative forces where it's a very, very well organized, well thought planning which happens for international, environment, industries, wars, name whatever. And now we are going to be isolated. He had made us look so rogue and so unresponsible. It's going to take a long time for the next administration to change it. And going back to the question on healthcare, and I want to say it, yes, as Republican, only think about the 1% of this population. They are in this bubble that healthcare is amazing. Yes, it's amazing if you are a millionaire or a billionaire or a politician coming from all over the world because they can afford to pay the money they can. What about poor people, rest of the population who don't have insurance or who don't have access to good healthcare? So it just shows how they think. The bubble is only for that 1% of this population. And secondly, if somebody said, oh, Trump doesn't need money, he's a billionaire, then why didn't he pay his taxes? Why are he going behind the loopholes? You are the leader, right? You have to follow the example. If everybody is going to take the loopholes, then how is this country going to function?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Gore. And moving on to Mr. Bansal. Mr. Bansal?
I love the way my esteemed colleagues look in your eye and lie right in front of your face. Mr. Trump was told, we know by record that he knew in the month of February, early February, that the virus was there. It was expanding very rapidly, that it was airborne, that it was a threat. He chose not to do anything about it. So now to come out and blame who? WHO that, oh, you did not tell us. Yes, only thing we know is we don't know how early he knew, but we know for sure that early in February he acknowledged that he knew it. So please don't lie, okay? And withdrawal from WHO, climate accord, Iran agreement, all have alienated nearly all our traditional friends. What this administration has done, if you believe in democracy, it's always a good idea to make friends. You go out. Look at the example of Modi. Before he got rid of 370, he went around the world trying to make friends, explain to them whatever it is to be done. So therefore, there is a consensus, and that's how you do it in the modern world. Like somebody said, that it's a flat world. You cannot be a bully. Whatever you do affects everybody. And you make friends first, and then you make a decision which you try to sell, and you make a decision as a group. But no, Mr. Trump is a bully, a lie, and a cheat who will not do that. My way or my way, my way or my way. The rest of the world can go to hell. And I'm sorry, in the modern times, the world doesn't run like that. Absolutely no way you could do that without making friends, keeping all these organizations, you try to influence, you create an environment where people listen to you, but by bullying and by doing this and destroying our friendship, years and years of friendship with all these countries is not the way to go. And I bet you we are going to pay for this in the coming years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bansal. And moving on to the rebuttal from the Republican team, one member can volunteer to make a rebuttal.
If I may
Go ahead, Pan. Hello?
Well, I'll just take 30 seconds. What I want to say is that I think you are reading the different news. Look at, we have had friends and partners in the Middle East, which I said. But the important thing, I just want to say that the people it was the middle America that voted and elected President Trump. So it was the people whose voices were not being heard in middle America and rural parts of Virginia and other parts of the country who elected Trump. At the same time, we have great relationship with President Trump, but what he's doing is he's draining the swamp. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. That's what President Trump is against. He just wants to make sure the American dollars are going in the interest of American people. At the same time, if you recall, really we have friends. When we needed help to support in the United Nations, when Nikki Haley asked for a vote, we only had 9 hands. So that is not really friends. And when the friends really come in, they really go and dig deep and fight terrorism. They fight socialism. They fight communism. And none of these people have done that. Anyway.
Yeah, I would just like to add that Trump is not against collaboration, but he's for bringing accountability. And you talked about laughing stock of the world. Did you see the bonhomie between Trump and Modi at the biggest event in Houston? You will be respected very well if you keep paying for NATO, WHO, everything by US taxpayer dollars. That's where Trump comes in and takes out and makes people accountable. See,
Biden will buy his way back into a friendship with Iran. We'll give a few $1 billion to Iran and we'll be friends again.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the Democrat strategy. Keep pumping taxpayer dollars into all these organizations that have basically are laughing behind our back.
And the climate accord never had the support of the US Senate.
I want to add one sentence to that. In NATO, who is maintaining NATO? For the defense of Europe, US is paying. They were not even paying 0.1% of the money they owed to US for maintaining peace and security for the entire Europe. Why US has to pay for the security of Europe? They have their own outlook. They must look after themselves. Why US has to be always a giver to, even for the defense reasons? I can understand wherever poverty is there, US can go and help. Why you support Europe, which has a much bigger economy than any other country?
Time is up.
Thank you very much. Please see that one member of the team makes a rebuttal from each side. So moving on to the Democratic panel, one member of the team would make a rebuttal for 1 minute.
So maybe I will add, just as also a scholar of international law, global alliances are important, ensuring not global mandates, which we don't have, again, because of principles of sovereignty, but global alliances, particularly when it comes to things like the pandemic, when it comes to climate change. These are not things that you can isolate. And isolating yourself from global allies just means that you won't have a robust response, right? Because it requires kind of global collaborative engagement. And that has always benefited the US. The US has always been a leader of international law, of a lot of these. That's why they're the highest contributor of many of these organizations, because those, particularly in an interdependent world, where our economies are globally connected. And we saw that when supply chains broke globally, we had a huge problem locally, right? Because we had no alternative, because we're so dependent on this, that those alliances matter. And ensuring that, particularly when it comes to the pandemic, that we have a response, we're part of that kind of global collaborative response is going to be important for the US and for every particularly vulnerable people in the US.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of questions coming up in the chat, but we'll take them after the questions. So moving on to our next question, which is on immigration, and I'm going to start with the Democratic panel. The question is, Obama-Biden administration had an open door policy and millions of illegals had come to the United States. Do you think there is a huge backlog for green card? Some of them will need to wait for over 100 years to receive the green card. How is the Biden administration going to address the immigration policy? Starting off with Mr. Jagagadkar Wilcox.
Yeah, I think the Biden administration is going to focus on reforming the aspects of immigration that have probably helped many of our families come to the United States itself. So if you're worried about illegal immigration, you have to focus on reforming legal channels of immigration, which, as you mentioned, are backlogged and problematic in and of themselves. So preserving things like family reunification policies are going to be essential, right, for families, for probably many of us here. Streamlining the visa process. You know, it's not helpful for the Trump administration to limit curtailing H-1B visas, making it more difficult for people to be able to come here to study, for business, right? You want that open relationship. And I can tell you personally, as a Fulbright scholar, right, this is a US program. It has created the kind of global connections that have led to more insightful, you know, research, collaborative innovations that have only benefited the United States. And so it, you know, it is important. And also protecting the vulnerable. So the program, of course, protecting the vulnerable and creating opportunities, you know, for them in the United States is going to be essential. But I think certainly in this conversation for this community, the key has to be thinking about how we make that process, right? That immigration is a good thing. It's always been a good thing. It's always improved. Diversity has always improved our country. How do we make that process easier? And my administration, again, with those actual plans, has a plan of action there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gore.
Yes, I think immigration is really a very touchy subject. But what has Trump done? He has separated families. He's made sure that people who have the education, who qualify, America always attracted the brightest and smartest from all over to come here. People here, the whole panel, if you see, we all have succeeded here. We've come. It attracted that. And now he wants to stop it. He doesn't want skilled workers to come here. He has made so many roadblocks for people from other nations to come. Why? Why does America, which stands on the American dream, why is he not loving that, right? So that's the question we have to ask. Yes, we are very open society. We've taken some of the refugee, but that's something you have to do as a developed country and humanitarian country to help somebody who needs our help. So his policies are, again, very, very polarized, very self-centered, very egoistic, and as a nation, we tend to be open-hearted, right? This country is on the foot of all the immigrants' hard work, and he is stopping that, and that's a big problem.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gore and Mr. Anabonso. Your thoughts. Mr. Bansal?
Yeah, United States was the biggest experiment of creating a new society based on immigrants. And the success of US has shown that this was an incredibly strong and wonderful program. Number one. Number two, it seems like now we are being racist. All these years when Europeans were coming here, it was all okay. But when you have people coming from Mexico or from India or from other countries, now the non-white countries, there seems to be a problem. And the fact of the matter is, like Hital said, that we were a country, United States is a country where everybody who is bright, everybody who wants to work hard would do everything possible to come here. And that is the reason why we have always been the top. If you stop both sides, the brightest people, look at, even in India, it used to be everybody who was the brilliant, most brilliant wanted to go to US. But it's not there anymore, number one. Number two, the United States is not accepting that, not creating a conducive environment. And the results will show in 10 to 15, 20 years. Number of patents percent will keep going down. New innovations will keep going down. That's one part of it. Now people talk about illegal immigration. It's a hot topic everywhere in the world. But the fact of the matter is, look at the reality. All illegal immigrants who come here are the ones who do all the unacceptable, what call lowest level work, which nobody wants to do. And you have seen the effect of it. Not that, of course, a country has to control and control and limit the numbers, etc. But the fact of the matter is, all your farm work, all the cleaning, all that stuff is being done by these illegal immigrants who provide a very important service. These are the ones who, just imagine, even if you are illegal, the amount of efforts, amount of mountains you had to climb up to come here. And you, by definition, are a hardworking and absolutely a wonderful human being who wants to work and take care of the family.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Bansal. Moving on to our Republican panelists. The question is, since coming to power, Trump administration has derided immigrants. Most recently, President Trump has challenged H-1 and H-4 visa holders, denying millions of Indian Americans. Why should Indian Americans support President Trump? And I'm starting with Mr. Puneet Ahluwalia.
I am a proud American. I care about American jobs and American students. So first thing, that's what is important for us to understand. We love where we have come from, proud of our Indian heritage, but now we are proud Americans. So once you start thinking that way, the whole perspective changes. At the same time, I also believe that there's an opportunity of merit-based immigration system, which President Trump and his team has been working on, because he wants to attract the best of the talent and people with credentials who come in and contribute to the American economy, American society, and also pay taxes. And at the same time, he was against illegal immigrants and who were also criminals who were killing American citizens. That's what he was against. At the same time, when we talk about, well, let's do the great kumbaya, we had the kumbaya thanks to President Clinton with the Chinese. Guess what happened to our supply chains? I think the focus is to invest in Central American countries where all the people come from. They are good, reliable allies. They're small, 20 million to 30 million in those economies, or 200 million in those economies goes a long way. And the safe cities which are created by the Democrats has made the life of honest, hardworking citizens very unsafe. And I do want to say to the focus here is on American jobs and American students. That's what President Trump has been focusing on. And I believe he's done a fantastic job in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahluwalia. Dr. Sampath Shivangi.
Yes, I do agree on what Puneet has said. Of course, I'm very much for the immigrants to enter into US. And when I met him on March 8th in Mar-a-Lago, I was the only one to give him a petition asking him to, make a free flow of H-1 visas. Of course, because they are merit-based. They didn't come just because they wanted to come to US. They came on the merit. They were all highly qualified, highly, like physicians, where hundreds of thousands of physicians came because we have a background, we have education system, we can contribute to American economy. That's why we're here. So the two things, of course, he tried to maintain is because of COVID, he has to prioritize jobs for Americans first. Then the immigrants come in a picture. So I think it's a short-term relief for American citizens to have jobs, which are, almost some of them are starving because of no income. I think as the president of the country, he's definitely his main thing is to look after Americans. I'm definitely for H-1B1 visa. We need to remove country-based admissions. We need to have merit-based admissions. So in that case, if that happens, every H-1 who is in the US will be, have a immigration or green card coming to them. May not be someone expecting 60 to 100 years. I think moment he wins, the first thing we are going to request him to make it not a country base so that Indian immigrants will have a free access, free flow to US. Thank you so much. And I think this will work. It is just a matter of 90 days. Moment he wins, the whole thing will change. I guarantee you that.
Thank you, Dr. Shivangi. Moving on to Dr. Anand Samanta.
Yeah, I think my opponents are totally wrong to say that Trump doesn't want the best and the brightest. In fact, his policies just want those. He does not want people to come in via the lottery system or the other types of chain immigration, where one person comes in and behind him 50 people come in. He wants the best and the brightest, and he wants to reform the immigration system to support that. And I think the policy totally is in line with his America First job. When you have a 20% unemployment due to COVID, how can you justify or even justify giving jobs to others on H-1B visa? So there is a temporary halt. It's not a permanent halt, as some of the media tries to portray. It is a temporary halt. It also does not cover the healthcare workers and those working in COVID, and also it allows the OPT, the optional training that the US graduates do in US. So I think they are totally wrong in trying to portray that Trump is wanting to bring in, he's against the best and the brightest. Another thing that my opponents pointed out, that Trump does not, he wants to have all the illegal immigrants coming in from outside. He wants people who are qualified, merit-based, and those are the people who will contribute to the US economy. You cannot have, just because somebody is hardworking and is able to jump the fence, qualifies to be a US citizen. So I think all these reforms will increase the safety and prosperity of the Americans in general. So we believe in immigration that is merit-based and supports the administrative, it supports the rule of law and secure border strategy.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to be having a 1-minute rebuttal from one member of the team. We're going to start with the Democratic panel first.
Anil, you want to go? I just have one thing. You can see when the Republican colleagues of mine are talking, they are so racially biased, right? What they are suggesting that all these illegal immigrants are criminals, which is not the case. The most illegal immigrants are the most hardworking. They do not cause any issues as far as the crime is concerned. This is the racial bias and the racial divide this president has put in our minds, that all illegal immigrants are criminal. They are one of the hardworking people who do contribute to the society. They do pay tax, unlike our president. These are the immigrants who do pay their taxes. So this is completely wrong thinking. And he has cut down on the H-1 visa jobs even before the pandemic had started. And the letter Dr. Shivangi is mentioning is the letter we physicians of IAPC, we wrote that to increase the number because there was a very decrease in H-1B visa for physicians from India to come here. So this is pre-pandemic. Don't blame pandemic. The unemployment has increased because of his policies to those wealthy companies to have offices and their factories offshore. That is the problem. All right. So I don't think our president has the right heart here.
Thank you, Dr. Hitul Gore. And on the Republican side, who would like to volunteer the rebuttal?
I'm just tired of hearing this racist rhetoric on the Democratic side. I'm a proud Republican for the last 20 years. And I know Sampaji has been there even longer. We've not faced racism. And if I am even looking to run for statewide office, if I even felt there was racism in my party, I would not be running. But it's just a rhetoric which my friend Hitul has been reading and hearing on CNN and MSNBC. Keep focusing on that. We Indians, especially I take on because we are proud Indians, Americans, we have succeeded. You think if we have not reached those positions because of racism? No, it's our hard work and working ethically and contributing to this great society. You just surface yourself, and that's the reason most of my friends on the Democratic side have benefited from the American dream, the free enterprise system. That's my case.
No, I agree with you completely, wholeheartedly, that we have succeeded because of our own hard work. But racism, your president said it on a national stage to white supremacists stand by.
No, he didn't.
What does that mean?
He did not.
He has denied. He has denied.
In January of 2017, I am speaking right now. In January of 2017, I went to Times Square And the amount of racial remarks that we faced, that had never happened of 20 years
That's
of
a
me
democratic
staying
New
in
York
this
City.
country.
This
It is
crime is
not.
up there.
It's the thought that this president has put into people to verbalize whatever hatred people might have had it.
Here till
And
I
that's
go
wrong.
to
When
Hey,
the
to
head of
rural
the
part of
time is up.
Virginia.
Ladies
when
and
head
gentlemen,
of the
time is up.
family is
We'll go
saying
to the
bad
next
things, the
question.
whole family.
Don't believe the CNNs.
Let me bring things into perspective. Do you feel that with the pandemic, we see glaring racial inequities coming out at this point of time? Black Lives Matter becoming a groundswell movement. What is your take? And I'd like to ask Mr. Ahluwalia this.
You see, who says Black lives doesn't matter? Who says Indian American lives don't matter? Who says Hispanic lives don't matter? That's all a rhetoric created by the CNN. We are a closed society. We are a diverse society, but at the same time, we are part of the American dream and part of the American fabric. And this pandering by the Democrats on playing identity politics is what is breaking this country apart. We saw that what's happened in India. What's important is that we believe in individual responsibility and individual success and pursuit of happiness. That's the founding father. Our friend earlier said from the Democratic side, this is a great experiment. And yes, this experiment has succeeded, but at the same time, we have to fight for every generation. And right now, if you see, I'll give you one prime example. In COVID crisis, there's a prescriptive doctrine and a diktat from the governor of Virginia on closing down certain small businesses, but at the same time, the ABC stores, which are government controlled, are open. The wineries, which are run by businesses, family businesses, are closed where others are open. And that kind of mandate is hurting our country. It's the free enterprise system, which should allow all responsible citizens to take their own action. We're grown-up people. We know how to succeed. So at the same time, when you pander to a community, what you do is you bring divisiveness. And that's not great and healthy for any society or any nation.
Okay. Do you feel that the racial inequities, especially in colored communities, marginalized communities, we see they don't have early access to care? They don't have access.
I disagree, ma'am. It's again a rhetoric created by Democrats. Tell me which African American or Hispanic or Indian American or Asian American will be denied healthcare. We have laws. We have
question of denial. It's early access to care. That's what we're talking about, because the affordability, the quality of care is not what they're getting, especially if you're a colored community or marginalized communities. They have difficulties in accessing and navigating the complex system. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that.
Well, this
civil rights.
The big government system is a creation of the Democratic Party to make it more bureaucratic. To answer your question.
Thank you very much. And when we're
sorry, Punit, I just want to add one sentence. Who are the most successful immigrant community in US? Indian Americans. We have highest economic standard. We have highest education. We have the highest family values. Where is the people are saying that there is no much scope for immigrants? We have done the best in the world.
Exactly.
To US and making one of the most promising economical community in the entire world system.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shivangi.
Yeah, I would like to add one quick thing. The more blacks were killed by cops under Obama than Trump. There was no BLM at that time. That clearly says that this has been fomented by the Democrats to try and create disturbance that can bring down the Trump administration.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Democratic panelists. Anyone would like to make a rebuttal?
And let me, I think it's important, and going back to, being a scholar of the Constitution, so going back to our balance in the Constitution, it's always balanced individual liberties, but justice. There's always that balance that we're looking out for the general welfare. And I think, I don't think anybody would deny that systemic racism exists. And it's our responsibility to make sure that our institutions are operating in such a way that procedures are fair. That's why we have things like an equal protection clause. That's why we have things like due process, is to make sure that we have procedures and institutions that are equitable. Hello? And in the reality,
we can't hear you.
Sorry, can't hear me?
No,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the reality is that is the case, and that did not, to be fair, that of course did not start under the Trump administration. That we're talking about systemic conditions that need to be addressed, right? There are structural issues But I think we have to recognize the reality that not everybody is getting treated the same. And the institutions that we have, and I think some of the fundamental principles in our Constitution are there in place to protect people, like the Equal Protection Clause, but we need to make sure they're implemented in a way that the institutions are reformed in a way that actually reflects those ideals. And I think that's certainly something the framers would have championed, right? So that's why we have procedural protections in place in the Constitution.
When the head of the state makes racial remarks and is supporting white supremacists, is very, very difficult situation, because that just gives the general public that and white supremacists to say it's okay to say things, it's okay to have this racial divide. And I think that's the problem. Nobody's saying that Trump started the racial divide, but he just made it worse.
Thank you very much. Moving
Now,
on.
there were more killings under Obama than under Trump.
Look at Chicago right now. It's a war zone.
Protesters on the street looting the stores.
I think what's been said is that systemic racism has been there. It's not just under one administration, it's always been there. And the pandemic has just brought it out more profoundly.
I agree.
I disagree, because we Indians have succeeded despite this narrative of racism, which is done by the Democratic Party. The Hispanic community has succeeded, so has the African American. You elected an African American president. Was it systemic racism? Come on, guys. We are smarter than that.
That's what
After how many years and after how many, right? Think about that.
and that's what woke up all the white supremacists.
Yeah.
They could not accept Obama, a black person.
Well, he
to
was
be the head of the
re-elected.
country.
He was re-elected second time. I think I rest my case. He was elected and re-elected. So
my friend, Republicans clearly said, we will do everything to ensure that Obama is not our president.
But and then what? He became president, right?
And what are the
That's the power of democracy, and that's hope the people will show in November 20.
And hence the reason why you all said that. You also said Hillary Clinton would be the president, and guess what? The power of the people who spoke out and elected President Trump. And for the last 4 years, you've been denying that President Trump was elected, because you all cannot fathom a fact that an outsider came and defeated Hillary Clinton, who felt she was anointed. I'm sorry, guys.
I just want all my Indian friends to remember one thing, that it was the Democrats who opened up the way to this country for all of us.
Well, it was Abraham Lincoln who gave freedom to African Americans. And we, the Republicans, are the ones who also believe in individual liberty, unlike what the big government wants in the Democratic Party. We have fundamental differences.
We promised the slavery, we promised them land, which never happened. So the black, we can go on and on.
Can we move on to the next question?
I just want to add something. Let's move on to the next one. I just want to add here something, that there's been a demographic shift in trends. So there are more colored communities this time voting. There are more people that are Asian, Hispanics, and Blacks that are voting since the last 10 years. So there has been a shift in the democratic trends in voting. So let's see how the political winds move on in November. Moving on to our next question is Indo-United States relations. And I think that's going to be very critical for both the panelists. And the question is for the Republican panel first. President Trump has taken away the special trade status India has enjoyed for decades. Majority of Indian Americans have historically supported Democrats. Why should Indian Americans support President Trump now? I'm going to start off with Dr. Sampath Shivangi.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question. What was the?
Let me repeat it to you. President Trump has taken away the special trade status India has enjoyed for decades. Majority of Indian Americans have historically supported Democrats. Why should Indian Americans support President Trump now?
See, the three things I want to emphasize why, especially the first generation of Indian immigrants like me. I'm here for the last 45 years. Out of 45 years, 5 years I was Democrat. And the rest of my 40 years, I'm Republican because I chose to be. We come from India with the socialistic, pro-Russia, pro-communistic ideas, Nehruvian philosophy that everything leftists are doing right and they are going to look after us. But that did not happen. When we came to US, our eyes opened and we became a Republican-oriented things because we saw what is the other side of the world. So that's the most important part is why Republican change. The next thing is the economy of the world. If you look at it, see where US stands. They spent in 1 year, almost close to $2 to $3 trillion. The whole of India's economy, they spent in 1 year to implement COVID issue, which was brought up by China. And now everybody is, of course, we are going to get the second stimulus and everybody will be happy. And that's the system we look for, not a giveaway, but we are distributing the wealth amongst US to the rest of the people who are hurt by COVID. And the second thing I want to come, why Trump? Because Trump is a very close friend of India. In case when China and Pakistan went to United Nations on the basis of 370 and CAA, the Trump and Pompeo stood by India. They would not let the discussion to happen in the United Nations.
We got 15 seconds left.
Okay, United Nations, that is the biggest savior. See, if Trump had supported against India, what would be India's stance? Third thing is, he went to India, he supported Indian cause, he went to Ahmedabad, he had the biggest reception he ever had. And he is much closer to India. He says he will stand by India in case China's aggression.
So your time is
he already has a quad, Indo-Pacific quad in the Indian waters to oppose China. Who can be a better friend of India than Trump in the time of crisis? I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shivangi. Moving on to Mr. Ahluwalia.
India is a growing economy, and that's the reason why the special status was taken away. But if you see, predominantly there's a Republican presidents who have always been pro-India. President Bush was one, and others have always kind of put India at a back burner. President Clinton would not support, had put India in a box after Atal Bihari Vajpayee did the nuclear test. So we've seen, especially under President Trump, the relationship has gone way high. And I think President Modi has a big role also to play. And also our need to find a good strategic partner against China from Asia Pacific to Indo-Pacific. This administration made this historic name change, and I'm very proud to be part of that, using Indo-Pacific as giving the significance of the role of India in that region. At the same time, India's defense trade has a substantially increased, but the problem is that the issue within Indian system, which has been the bureaucracy, the ease of doing business, has to come from India. We Americans are looking to do more business with India, and it would be a dream come true if all these companies would have moved out of China into India or into the South Asia region, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and other allies to the United States. Very important. That's the reason why it's important that these countries make it easy for doing business with American mindset and American fundamentals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to Dr. Anand Tamhankar.
Yeah, I agree with totally with Puneet. I think Trump has been the best president for Indo-US relationship. Look at the results rather than just the rhetoric. See the bonhomie between Prime Minister Modi and Trump at the Houston event, and then Namaste India event, which Trump attended. The actions on Pakistan, especially putting them on FAFTA and basically choking their funding, which was basically fomenting all the trouble in Kashmir as well as other regions. Then the direct support that US is giving India against China aggression in Ladakh. All these are really the results that we should look at. And what you see on the other side, Kamala Harris is wanting to roll back all the progress that Modi made with Kashmir issue 370 abolition, as well as the CA provisions, which is entirely India's internal matters, which have been passed by the parliament. If you love what Modi ji is doing to transform the motherland, I think, and believe in his judgment, then every vote that you give to the Democrat is really a vote for Pakistan and China to start meddling with Kashmir and Ladakh. So I think if we cannot fight on the border and save our soldiers, we can do the least is that prevent Kamala from creating more problems for India, as well as Modi ji on Kashmir resolution, and also keeping China and Pakistan in check. My question for my opponent is, do you support Kamala Harris' position on Modi ji's Kashmir resolution, including removal of Article 370 as well as CAA? That's all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our Democratic panel. The question for you is, under Republican presidents, India has gained importance and the United States has enhanced cooperation between the two nations. U.S. has defended India against China and focused on providing greater role to India. How would the Biden administration address the concerns of Indian Americans who think that Biden-Harris ticket is more pro-Pakistan and less India-focused? Starting off with Ms. Sujata Gadkar-Wilcox.
I want to focus on the position of trade policies, and I think taking a protectionist foreign policy approach and trade policy approach is problematic for U.S.-India relations, and Biden has come out in the face of broader free trade agreements, and he's against sort of these kinds of protectionist approach, which I think are problematic. I mean, going back to again the connection between immigration here, I think is relevant as well, right, with the H-1 visas. And I think the points that were made about the fact that this was the new standards are merit-based. Our standards have always been merit-based to some extent, but when you make the standards so rigid and the requirements so high, in some cases requiring only accepting things like a PhD, you're eliminating the actual realistic relationship that can exist. And what we're seeing now is so many, I have my own family members who are scientists who are attempting to come back to the US after studying here, working on coronavirus solutions, but are finding it difficult because that connection has been strained because those requirements are now more difficult. And I think, and again, going beyond rhetoric to the actual actions, there may be sort of perceptual relationships between the two governments that are good in terms of feeling feeling good and looking good. But when you look to the policies that have actually come out of any of those meetings, there was very little substance that came out of them, right? So there was nothing in terms of actual bilateral agreements or policy negotiations that were substantive enough to say this is improving U.S.-India relations.
Very much, Dr. Hitkel-Gore.
So it's completely a photo op that president has used our Indian Prime Minister Modi for his own benefit. It is just a very superficial relationship he has, just to make sure that he gets the publicity and the Indian American vote. I don't think he cares about India. As you have seen, the business trades, the tax relief, the Paris Agreement, everywhere he's not been our friend. When it is just a photo op, superficial, he's been there, but not with the policy, nothing to make India and help India to prosper. Number two, he has lied, right? That Modi came to his help, be it Pakistan, be it China, and he just likes to prove himself that, oh, he's such an important person. He lies again and again. Do you want a leader who lies? India has had great relationship with Democratic Party. Obama, Clintons have done amazing to make sure the Americans with Indian origin here have prospered. They have made sure that we had a good positions in their administration. They've been always friends of India. They have helped us at multiple levels. And now you're undermining everything because your president lies and just does a photo op without doing anything constructive to help India. Come on. You guys are smarter than that.
Thank you, Dr. Gore, and moving on to Mr. Alfonso.
Well, if you are an Indian American who loves India most and really well-to-do, and especially in real estate, you have to love Donald Trump. There is no doubt in my mind. at least in my mind, that this administration has openly and strongly supported India like never before, given us the tax cut like we have never seen before. But for a second, think about in long run, about your roots. Are they here or in India? India has a very special place in my heart. And I will do anything for India. And I have done, and I continue to do, and I will always do. But America has to come first as an oath-taking US citizen. And we live here, and we have to think about what kind of society do we want our kids and grandkids to live in. You really believe that this hatred, which has been surfaced by the action of Donald Trump, is not going to be used against Indian Americans? Believe me, look around you. While most white Americans are wonderful in every way possible, and I think we all have benefited from their generosity, these few racists who hate is going to spare us and our kids? I don't think so. They have been brought out by him. And deficit and widening gap of rich and poor, that is the most important part, that you really think it's not going to affect our security and well-being of the society. So for India, yes, Trump may have said all the right things, but in action, taking away the status of most favored nations and basically to sell us more arms, I don't know if that's a, I think it's more Modi's strength which has made India great rather than Trump administration helping them.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal. And moving on to the Republican side for rebuttal for 1 minute.
Yeah. Again, I have to come to rescue of India because, see, if you read all the newspaper, including New York Times, they said China is waiting whether Trump is going to come back to power or Biden. Moment Biden comes in power, he is very soft on China. So also Kamala Harris. So China will have a heyday if Trump loses. You know, who are the sufferers? India. China will pounce on India moment Trump is gone. Trump is the most solid backer for India. I think you will realize if he's not there. Please make sure that Kamala Harris, who is already questioning the human rights in Kashmir, Biden is questioning on 370, CAA, he's questioning everything. Who is he? India is a sovereign nation. Is the CAA and 370 were passed in both houses of parliament. The president has signed. It is the law of the nation. When India has started questioning American Constitution or American laws that have been passed, we never bothered. Why Biden, who is so weak in the foreign policy of India, who is he to question the sovereign countries' rights to exist and whatever the laws have been made by constitutionally, he has no business, neither Kamala Harris, who claims to be, who never claimed in Indian American. She claims as a black woman. We don't have any problem, whatever she wants to choose, but she cannot go against India. And at least it's her mother's land, which brought her up to be who she is. I think it is a irresponsible way for Kamala Harris to go against India, and she just is a vote getter for Indian Americans. We are being spied on these people. Be careful where Kamala Harris stands on Kashmir and CAA, and the relation between India and the US will suffer if Biden and Harris come into picture. Time will tell. Just wait for him if he ever wins. Thank you.
Can I make a quick point about my opponent said that America first, and then he opposes Trump action to limit H-1 visa when US has 20% unemployment. They also oppose his taking action on MFN, which is again a America first step. So either you make up your mind whether you are America first or India first.
Thank you. Moving on to the rebuttal from the Democrat side. One member, or if anybody, it's just going to be 1 minute. Who would like to make a rebuttal from the Democratic?
Anybody?
Gutkar, please go ahead.
I think what Anand, I think you took Anil's comments completely wrong. What he's suggesting that we as a humans wants a president or a leader of this country who is honest, who is principled, who is going to value the diversity, because hatred is something. Today you are hating blacks. If after your hatred with black is done, you'll be including browns. There is no stopping of hatred. And your kids, my kids are great grandchildren. When they'll be bringing, they might not feel so aligned to India because they will think they are American first. And at that point, it's going to be very hard for them to understand why just because of their skin color, they are being harassed. That is what Anil's point was. There is no doubt in our minds, we love our mother country, but this is where our karma bhumi is. This is where we made our dream come true. So we are loyal to both countries. But today, if I am asked, first, I'm an American citizen first. Even though I have my respect and love for my mother country, I chose to be citizen of this country, and country's future is really important. That doesn't mean we are flip-flopping, my friend. This is what Anil was saying. We want a president. Number two.
Time is up.
Okay.
Than any other president. Prison reforms is one thing. Endowment for black colleges is another thing. Unemployment has been the lowest under Trump. So I think this racism under Trump has just exploded out of the box. Is really a media hype.
Thank you very much.
Not a media hype. He
Renee.
supported white supremacy on national TV, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, Renee, may I ask a question? Due to short of time, could we?
We're going with one member from each team for the next question, short of time. So we're going to go with only one member from each panel for this next two questions. This is the question on economy and jobs, and it's going to be on the Democratic panel. One member would be answering this question. The question is, Biden has proposed to raise taxes. Many businesses are likely to shut down and lead to another recession. A government takeover of lives, a bigger government, the middle class is bearing the brunt of economic shutdown. How will Biden-Harris ticket be any different and enhance economic growth that benefits all? Only one person from one panel.
All right, I'll definitely like to go on this because this is completely untrue. None of the Biden policies are about the tax for somebody who is middle class and lower class. His policy is to increase tax for the 1% of Americans who are making more than $400,000. His policy, compared to Trump's policy, is going to actually help the rest of the 99%. The child tax benefit, right? He's talking about that. That's going to give the middle and the lower class $3,000 to $3,600 per child, either age 6 to 17 or less than 6 benefit. Also, Trump wanted to increase the tax for anybody who made more than $65,000 while helping 1% of his friends, right? The tax, he wanted to decrease the tax on capital gains. Who is he supporting? Biden has been very clear, even though a lot of us is going to be affected at a personal level, but I think the greater good of the country is important, right? You are only supporting 1% of your population. He has helped corporation. He is helping the 91 out of Fortune 500 companies. They hardly pay tax, right? He is helping billions of dollars to the big companies, right? Because of his tax. Biden policy is yes, it's going to affect the big corporation to the rich Americans, but that's going to help the rest of the 99%, the small businesses. And this is always the media twist. Oh, if the Democrats come, your taxes are going to go high, but they are taxing the people who are in a really upper bracket. But 99% of the rest of the Americans is going to be helping. So it's completely out of context where the tax is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gore. Moving on to the Republican panel. The question is, President Trump inherited a vibrant and growing economy with millions of jobs added. Today, under Trump watch, the United States has lost nearly 30 million jobs. Economy has contracted for the first time in decades. Inequality is the highest. Wall Street has gained while the middle class has shrunk. One member from the Republican panel, 2 minutes.
Puneet, you want to go?
Yeah, I want to go on this.
Okay,
You know,
go
again, I think I wish you were a fair moderator. The economy under Obama was struggling. It was President Trump and his policy and the confidence people had in him that basically raised this country's economy and created more jobs. We've had such a huge success in the stock market, cutting down on corporate taxes, basically changed the entire focus of this country and renegotiating trade deals. And more importantly, bringing back manufacturing and also penalizing China. I think President Trump has done everything to basically build back the confidence in the American people and the American entrepreneurship and its exceptionalism. And the Democrats, again, there's no twist by the media. It's more by Biden saying that, yes, we're going to raise taxes on people making over $400,000. But trust me, folks who are living in Democratic states, they all penny pinch you in different ways and increase taxes. And Obamacare is one prime example. Basically, it's a mandate. It's more like a tax on hardworking Americans. So this whole narrative of creating jobs, I think jobs are created by the people of America who feel they're behind a strong leader who wants to take their country into a strong era of progress and success. It was the Antifa which is burning down stores of Asians and Americans. So don't say that the systemic racism, it was Antifa funding and fueling that rage, where at the same time, other hardworking and law-abiding citizens were basically staying at home. And at the same time, the Democrats are saying, well, let's defund the police. Like, guys, I think you all live in a parallel world. There's a two different vision of great America, and one is a pathetic America under Sleepy Joe and Kamala Divisive Harris. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a rebuttal from the Democratic side now. 1 minute, please.
I wanted to say, with India, U.S. relations, just to go back to that for a minute, and I think the key really is going to be the economic relationship, and a protectionist philosophy and approach to international relations is not going to be helpful. So when you, that's going to be the worst kind of relationship you can form based on that. And going back to the question on jobs, I think that's also connected. Now we have to think about it in relation to the economy in relationship to the coronavirus. So here is where the stimulus package, for example, ensuring that you have enhanced unemployment insurance, that you have opportunities for small businesses running, that you're creating maybe opportunities that connect with a kind of public health work. So the kind of technology that we might need in the pandemic, these are all proposals that Biden has put forward, because these are solutions to thinking about how you create jobs in a pandemic. How you connect that to health needs in the country right now, how you connect that to green technology. So I know the next topic will be climate change, so I won't answer on that, but how do you connect to that? You invest in green technology, you invest in infrastructure in ways that actually will improve the economy. And I think that hasn't been happening, and the plans for that are the ones that we should be looking at very soon.
Time is up.
All right, moving on to the Republican panel. Anybody would like to offer?
I just want to say simply, the response from President Trump after the pandemic was amazing. Look at the checks the small and mid companies have got from the PPE. After the financial meltdown, President Obama let anybody and most people, including myself, who suffered from that financial meltdown. President Trump has taken a very proactive action. Most small and mid-sized business and even large companies have gotten funds to basically sustain themselves, keep the employment going, keep their businesses running. That's what leadership does. And you keep harping on him that he's this, he's that. Guess he's done a phenomenal job in building this country back up and having pride in this great nation.
I just want to add.
The PPP, sorry, Dr. Sampath, the PPP went to the big corporation.
I'm so sorry. Your information is
businesses.
incorrect. Your information is incorrect. I know so many people.
Absolutely, the first way went to the big corporations.
We're already moving on. They already you had a 1 minute rebuttal both sides. So let's move on to the next question.
The only thing I want to say, President Trump said before COVID, the lowest unemployment rate in the history of the nation. highest employment to the Black and Hispanics. Or where can you find such a economics bonanza?
Dr. Shivani, we're going to move on. I'm sorry, we're not going to move on. We're really short of time now. The last question is on climate change, and I'm going to be asking one of the Republican panelists for this question response. President Trump has marginalized the scientists and put political dividends and business gains over the huge impact from climate change. He's withdrawn from Paris Accord. There's an increasing number of hurricanes and wildfires. Consequences of climate change are huge for generations to come. One person from the Republican panel for 2 minutes.
I can take that. I think the climate, I agree, climate is changing, and as it has been for years and eons. Where was human activity when ice age occurred multiple times on Earth? I think it's a lot media creation. There is definitely an impact of human activity on climate, but it's not like in 3 years that President Trump was in office that suddenly the fire started in California and other places. It's a mismanagement of forests and the vegetation on their part, which is basically creating forest fires. I think climate will keep on changing. What we need to do is strike a balance between the need for the economic activity and the need for livelihood of people, and slow change in the climate that the humans are impacting. We want to make sure that we don't kill our people before the climate is basically resolved. So I think it's a controversial issue which doesn't have a direct answer to how fast and how much is the real impact of humans on climate. Yes, there is an impact. There is an impact. If you have more coal burning, there will be more smog in the air. But we want to make sure that our immediate livelihoods of Americans is not hindered, as well as we have energy independence for our country.
If I may add quickly, in the climate accord, President Obama used his executive power and signed the climate accord where he didn't have the support of the Congress, especially the Senate. And plus, he committed to giving $700 million to countries who were not going to play by the same rules. That's one of them. China and India had 20 more years to come back to the same standard as America. In the meantime, we were asked to curtail our American jobs and energy jobs so that we had to be tied to the back to abide by a rule which others are not going to follow. Why should we Americans be penalized and also pay $700 million of taxpayers' money for countries to get their standard up?
Question to the Democratic panel, one member please. Biden embracing the new Green Deal has put the economy at risk. It could be huge cost to business and the larger economy. Many traditional jobs could be lost. The poor and low-wage earners are likely to lose jobs and income. Why should the community support the Biden-Harris ticket? Who would like to offer a response from the Democratic panel? One member only, please.
Redker?
You don't want to respond? Yeah, so I would say, what we need to focus on, like I said before, is investing in clean energy, which certainly I think you have to think about what has become the very apparent risk of climate change and the impact. So committing to reducing our carbon emissions is going to be number one. Making sure that you have effective ways to incentivize businesses to be able to do that. And so if you have, for example, something which Biden is supporting, something like a tax for carbon output, that can be reinvested to incentivize businesses to start thinking about clean energy. Because you have to start putting the infrastructure for climate change should have been put in, already decades ago. And so if we're thinking about it now, we're already behind. So then the question is, how do you connect that to actual, jobs and investment in infrastructure? You put them all together by investing in the kind of technology that's going to be alternative energy resources, clean energy investment, and the kind of technology that will also produce the jobs that will then, improve the economy. And I think that you clearly see with the Biden-Harris administration that there is a plan to reduce emissions, to invest in infrastructure, the technology infrastructure that will ultimately not only help the U.S. in terms of global, the impact of global climate, but will help reduce jobs.
I think Trump has always refused that there is a climate change. And if he's refusing, he's not doing anything. I'm not saying that the fires in California is because of Trump, but Trump has not done anything proactive to change the policy. Biden-Harris has a very strong plan. They want to build the infrastructure. They want to have green policies. They want to affect the climate, and that's going to create a lot of new jobs. Renee, to answer your question, and those jobs are going to reduce the unemployment. Those jobs to make the infrastructure better, to make the policies and to make environmentally friendly companies and policies is going to help grow the technologies to do the alternative energy resources. So Trump has refused to believe there is a climate problem, and that is going to be complete disaster in itself, because if we don't recognize the problem, we are already behind by decades compared to Europe, and we're just going to make things worse here.
Thank you, Dr. Well, I would say, so let's take the Republican side for that.
I will do that. I think this President Trump said, I do understand there is a global issue, a climate change issue. But it's important for you to recognize that we Republicans do care about climate change. We are conservatives. We believe that we should leave the world in a better place the way we found it. Only thing is that you have been just kind of harping on that, oh, climate change. But the fact is we are doing significant things. There are actions being taken to come up with innovative technologies and share with partner countries at the same time. But you cannot take the $700 million in the Green Climate Fund, which is from the taxpayers' money, and pay to countries which will not abide by the same rules for the next 20 years. Secondly, you talk about, well, there is a plan on paper. How do you give a job to a coal miner or a person who's in fracking who's lost a job? You've not been able to give broadband into your rural areas for this person to learn and adhere to new technologies. And then you want to impose new technologies without him having any education. There are generations of people who have worked in coal mining. You've taken those jobs away. And that's what President Trump is talking about, is that you can have a great plan on paper, but that's what Democrats do, but you can't effectively implement it. People have to pay mortgages. There are ghost towns in Virginia and coal mining company. And President Trump is responsible for bringing that back, and President Obama bankrupted coal company. And I understand we have come up with new technologies, which is better. And you can see around us are in the last 4 years and before, we live in a much healthier environment.
Okay, I just want to add one more thing, is fracking. The United States is the first time ever became a positive supplier of oil reserves in the entire world. Biden, a year ago or 6 months ago, he said he's against fracking. Kamala Harris, she said she's against fracking in the US. Now suddenly they changed their mind. A week ago, they are for fracking. They want to continue the Trump policy. Now who is right? So you change your mind just because it helps you? Or are you for US or you're against the US? Please stand up and tell me.
Yeah. One more thing I would like to add is that the Green New Deal is going to cost $20 trillion, which is not even sustainable, or we don't even have that kind of money to pump in. It's just a plan in the air.
Okay, closing remarks, please. Please stick to time, panelists. We're already going over time over here. Why would each one only 30 seconds? Please stick to your time. In closing remarks, give us one only valid reason, just one valid reason why Indian Americans and the American electorate should vote for your favorite candidate. Please, only 30 seconds per person. You want to start, Dr. Shivangi?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, see, I'm a US citizen, and I care and I respect US, but still, as I said, I'm the first generation of Indian immigrants. I still worry about my motherland. And if you think of India as part of your system, I think you better see what is good for India right now. Good for India is Trump is very, very close ties with the Prime Minister Modi, and he supported him. And that will help to flourish India into the next economic phase, and also against Pakistan. Why Pakistan is so quiet? Who subdued Pakistan? President Trump. Who subdued China? President Trump. US ships are in Malabar, around India, to block Chinese invasion. Now, who is standing on China border? Ladakh? President Trump has promised he will stand by India if any aggression comes from China. Who we can look for? Only United States.
Your time is up.
Yeah, so I think we be careful and we want to watch what is good for India. I'm not saying what's good for India is good for America, but then the goal should be protect our motherland, and he's the right man.
All right. Mr. Puneet Ahluwalia?
I think the choice is very clear. If you want a strong, thriving economy and you want a leader who is looking for actions in regards to improving American life again and making country great again, President Trump is the right choice. And also supporting your congressional candidates who are Republicans and senators to support them and elect and make the hand of President Trump stronger to keep the direction he's going, not only making the country economically thriving, but most importantly, getting us out of unnecessary wars. And at the same time, doing the right innovation in the climate change and also fighting the pandemic, which is very important. And after the pandemic, the only president who can really revive the economy is President Trump. Think about that, folks. Who can lead this country in strong direction after the pandemic? President Trump. Thank you.
Dr. Tamanko?
Yeah, 3 key points. So number one is if you cannot fight on the border, but at least you want to prevent Kamala from becoming the next vice president and Biden to be the president, vote for Modi ji, and that will support his Kashmir resolution and save us from China and Pakistan problems. Second is increase taxes. If you do not want increased taxes and your tax dollars wasted on bloated departments and programs, vote for Trump. Third one is if you want strong leadership, love your freedom, and want a business approach to problems against all the bloated government departments and programs, and don't want the government to manage your life, vote for Trump.
We just wanted one valid reason. Let's go on to the Democratic side. Let's go with Sujata Gadkar-Wilcox first. 30 seconds, please.
I think now more than ever, what we need is somebody who's a unified, somebody that is going to bring people together. I think we can see even in this conversation, right, that the country is very tensely divided, and disagreement is actually fine in politics, but this very tense hyper-partisanship is not. So we need a unifying force. The number of Republicans that have come out to support a President Biden, I think speaks volumes for that kind of unifying nature, because they care about, like I do, the Constitution and fundamental ethical, political ethics that come out of that, I think is represented there. Investing in proper economics, COVID relief, and the kind of climate change technology, right? Investing that's connected to jobs. Those kinds of investments go beyond the rhetoric we're talking about. So I think we need unification. We need action beyond rhetoric. We need people. We need a more inclusive community.
Dr. Gore, one valid reason.
So I think that the reason cannot be very clear. We need a leader who is a leader, who speaks the truth, who brings the community together, who reduces the racial divide, which is invested in bringing the economic uplifting for all the sectors of the society, building job, be responsible globally, be part of the global community, make the climate better, education, attract people from all over to come and make America what it stands for, not somebody who is a liar and who creates issues and racial divide. And he has been a horrible businessman. He is the one who has had bankruptcies after bankruptcy. So why are we saying we need a business approach to this? Because he's been a failure all throughout. We want somebody who stands for something. You can see what Kamala has done as Attorney General in California, what she stands for. We've seen Obama being a vice president. So vote for Biden and Harris.
Thank you. And Mr. Bansal.
I'm going to say something very different. In the end, the reason to vote for Trump, I believe you're deep down racist, or you believe in that. You do not respect women, or you are seriously a selfish person. That's my personal opinion. But at the end, I really do appeal to all Asian Indian American families to vote for whosoever you feel right, but do vote. It is the biggest tool for our future survival. It is not a matter that our community is financially, academically, and professionally at the top. It's the best amongst any group or subgroups. But history has shown again and again that unless we have strong representation in the government, unless we vote in masses, we can be overrun and removed in a bad and sad times every time and very, very quickly. So I beg you all as a proud Asian Indian American family, think about the future and please vote. And it really doesn't matter deep down that whom you vote for.
Thank you very much. Again, very soon, we'd like to first thank our panelists, Sujata Gadkar-Wilcox, Hetal Gore, Anil Bansal, Puneet Ahluwalia, Sampa Shivangi, Anand Tamhankar. Thank you all. Very soon, we'll be making our decision, a very significant decision, electing the 46th President of the United States, whether it's going to be Trump-Pence ticket or whether it's Biden-Harris ticket. The most important part is to get out and vote. We need to be at the table, not on the table, to get our voices heard. So that is very important. But again, our committee and the American electorate will make that decision very soon. It may not be out on November 3rd because of the absentee ballot and the mail-in ballots, but it will be out very shortly. And I want to thank you all for participating in such a robust conversation. The vote of thanks was going to be out by Dr. Chalia. Thank you very much.
Renee, if I may say quickly, thank you all for hosting a great debate. It was very, very good. I really appreciate that. And after president, we have chosen the next president. Please support Puneet for LG.com. Really appreciate Puneet for LG.com. As everybody has said here, we have to participate and we have to be not on the table, but on the seat, definitely.
I agree with we need to make Sunit as the next Lieutenant Governor and maybe Governor of Virginia. We would be proud to have you.
So one step at a time.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Before Dr. Chalal gets to talk vote of thanks, I have to make two quick announcements for the rest of the evening's program. First of all, thank you to all dear panelists and the participants today for patiently listening. It was a great talk. So we have a 2:30 seminar today on India's relationship with other countries, especially US and Canada. So we have two eminent speakers that will be speaking to us. One is former Ambassador T.P. Srinivasan, IFS. He will be joining us live from India. And our very own Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, who will join us also talking US relationships with India and so forth. So I encourage everyone on the panel to participate in that. You will have a question forum in the very end. You can take questions and you can have it answered. That's one, that's at 2:30 to 3:30, just a 1 hour session. Please feel free to join on the same link that you joined this morning. And our closing ceremony, that's the award and closing ceremony. We have selected great personalities for this year's award. There's 11 of them. So we are giving this prestigious award on behalf of IAPC at our finale of the International Media Conference. So I invite personally, as the General Secretary of IAPC, to all the debate participants, panelists, to join with us for our ceremony this evening, again on the same panel. Thank you. Over to Dr. Chalal.
Thank you. Thank you, Biju, and thank you all for a great conference and great discussion. On behalf of Indo-American Press Club, which is a 501c3 organization, we as an association will not endorse any candidate or parties, but we encourage all of you to have a healthy discussion and to take part in the elections. As all of this said, please make sure you vote. Your vote counts. This debate couldn't have been possible without the great anchor we have, Dr. Renee Mehra from ITV Gold. We had Ajay Ghosh, who is the chief editor for UNN, for leading the program first. Mr. Biju for helping us, and the rest of the IAPC board. I'll be amiss. I mean, I really enjoyed all the discussions, especially in healthcare, and we look forward to a healthy discussion going forward and coming together as Indian Americans and as voters in this country to deliver. I just want to stop by congratulating all the IAPC award winners, which are being honored at around 7:30 today evening, especially Wheels Global Foundation with getting the Sat Bhavana Award. Dr. Vinod K. Shah, who's a member of our own API, with the Karma Sreshta Award. Dr. Nirin Noria from the Harvard Business School Dean with the Sat Karma Award. Ms. Ranjini Sehgal with the Ekal Vidyalaya Foundation with the Satkarma Award. We're getting Mr. Lalit Jha with the IAPC Media Excellence Award. Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, who came up with the recent book, and Beyond COVID, Excellence in Literature Award. Dr. Pradeep Khosla, Chancellor Pradeep Khosla from the University of California, San Diego, in Excellence in Technology and Education Award. Dr. Sudhakar Janalagada, President of API, with Excellence in Leadership Award. And Dr. Sunil Kumar with the Humanitarian Award. Mr. Satish Korpe with Community Service Award, and Mr. Madhavan Nair with the Community Service Award. I congratulate all the award winners, all the attendees for today's discussion, all the panelists and attendees. Please join us back, as Biju said, at 2:30 for a wonderful Indo-US Canada relationship discussion with the TP Srinivasan Ambassador and Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor. It'll be a great way you can ask questions directly, especially all the questions coming up. Thank you so much. Go out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Charlie, and I'm Dr. Renee Mera. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.